That's the automatic people from Locals and Rumble. That's them recording us to make sure we're being behaved.
Oh. So they're
At
the
least I think
watchers.
so. At least I think so. I don't know. It's
Ah.
just weird that every time I start up, there's one person always on Rumble as soon as I start, and then there's one person on Locals when I start it up.
Uh.
All right,
There are personally assigned FBI agents. Due to staffing shortages, they now have to put one agent on several people.
Okay.
Boy, I got lucky yesterday.
You did?
Rode up to my buddy's house. He's moving from Lancaster to Hanover. So I rode up to see his new house yesterday. It's like 29 miles from here.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a motorcycle mechanic. So he started looking over my bike after we played a couple of games of chess. Here, my back brakes were just about down the metal.
Oh,
They
damn.
were paper thin.
That's not good.
Fortunately, Fortunately, there was a Weinbrenner's, a Harley shop, like a mile away from his new house. So we ran up, got some brakes. He threw them on there in like 5-10 minutes.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and I realized my bike's out of inspection. Ran out in fucking September. I got a lot of friends that don't mind running out of inspection bikes, you know, but
If you
I'm
can
really
afford
big
to
on
buy it,
inspection.
Power to them, you know.
Well, I'm big on
I just-
inspection because if
Yeah.
you get in an accident with a car or a motorcycle that ain't insured, your insurance company can basically tell you to F off. You know,
Yep.
we're insuring an inspected bike. Yours ain't inspected. Sorry about your luck. I mean, that shit can happen. You know, not to mention the legal ramifications. But, so yeah, I got to get that. Need new back tire too before I can get inspected. It's right at the limit right now.
Mm.
Yeah, so that sucks. I got to see if I can figure something out to carve for my friend Dave so he can fix my bike and I'll do a carving and no cash out of my pocket because, man, I'm fucking busted right now. Sucks. Bidenomics is hitting its high point, I believe.
Yeah, it's working as intended.
Yeah. If Trump don't get in, it's going to get worse. If Trump gets in, it's probably going to be a year till things get back to a comfortable margin, you know?
Even if Trump does get in, how much stonewalling is the system going to do against him? Try and keep his policies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be on his typical uphill path with politics. I mean, they've been up his ass. They've been up his ass now for 8 years, solid. You know, like I don't think in the last 8 years Trump wasn't in the news every damn day, and
Just
they still
about.
got nothing. And they still got nothing on him. You know, nothing.
Just
all
about.
that wasted time, all the wasted shit with the legal system, all the money wasted. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Somebody should have to pay that back. And if they don't find nothing on Trump, I think it ought to fall on the people that are doing it to pay all that fucking money back. That's just me, though.
See, I'd be satisfied with just getting some of the information out regarding those people. One of which being, which one of them is on the E list? We know there's probably quite a few of them that are on that list. Let's
What do you
see
mean by E-list? What do you mean by E-list?
The one who didn't take himself out in a New York prison.
that guy.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. Can't
The
say the
island
full
guy.
name. Yeah, can't
The
say the
island
full
guy.
name without getting in some trouble. So yeah,
it's
the island guy.
Yeah.
The island guy. Which one of them is on the list? Once we
Oh,
get
yeah.
that out, we'll put those ones in jail or a wood chipper. I prefer a wood chipper, but jail will do. Jail will do.
Yeah.
Just put them in
Yeah.
jail, get them out. Then
As long as it's not a rental chipper, because you can't take them back then.
Sure, you
Well,
can. You just
yeah.
gotta hose them down real good.
But they frown
about to
upon
say.
that.
Yeah, you just
Well,
don't
that's
tell
why you rent it from a based patriot and say, hey, you know what we're going to use this for? We're going to use this to
Yeah.
dispose of some people that are not people.
them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hold
I
on,
don't-
let
I
me get
don't
some
know.
salt water to spray on the
the-
blades.
The least amount of people that know, the better, probably, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, still.
100%.
Anyway, we can start with that. Then we can start with all the insider trading. Chris linked me to a little short on Instagram. I don't have an Instagram account, so it's a pain in the ass.
Me neither.
Whatever.
I posted it in Discord too.
But I agree with the point that we need to stop them from insider trading.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, hell
was-
yeah.
Not just the Congress people directly, but their spouses, their
Oh, absolutely.
their siblings, their parents, their children.
proxies.
Anybody has access to that information through them, pretty much.
We go basically 6 degrees of separation. You have to be separated by 6 degrees of relation from an elected official in order to be able to trade.
Yeah.
You're still going to get some enrichment, but it's going to be much less, and it's going to be a greater pain in the ass for them to get it done. So
Yeah.
it will be less lucrative. That's the next step.
Well, the first thing she said in the video was about going back to basic one bill for one problem instead of these mega bills that have 20, 30
Yeah.
fucking things in them, and you
Yeah.
have to pass it all or you don't get nothing passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Secondly, she was talking about, and I definitely agree with this, Congress should not get a fucking pension just for being in Congress. They should not
Yes.
get lifetime health care. That is
I
not-
disagree. I very much disagree. If these people are basically spending their entire careers in Congress and we're taking away almost everything but their congressional
But
pay,
they shouldn't be in Congress
Yeah.
for their entire fucking lives. That's
Well,
the problem.
what would be, in a perfect world, I suppose it'd be okay if they're in that for life,
Yeah.
depending on how they did, like a commission. Like if you did really, really well for America, you should be getting like the top there. But if you
Yeah.
were a shithead all your life and just messed things up and threw wrenches in machinery, well, then you're like either on the bottom or underneath of it, where most of them belong, underneath
But-
of it.
but still, I believe that like any, mind you, I believe that every job, if you're working for that job for 20 plus years, you should have a pension waiting for you, not a 401k, not Social
Yeah,
Security,
yeah.
a genuine pension. And you can thank
Yeah.
Chainsaw Al back in the 80s for destroying the concept of company pensions. He was a big proponent of dumping the pension plan, getting rid of anybody who was close to retirement so they wouldn't have to pay those pension plans, then dumping that money immediately back into the company to show a short-term
Right.
gain, a very large one. He destroyed
Yeah.
pensions, except in a very few places. And I'm
Okay.
saying if you have somebody who has served in Congress honorably, now mind you, this is going along with also cutting off a lot of the other crap that gets us a lot of really bad Congress critters. All the insider trading, all the other crap that they do that enriches them unjustly. But you get
Right.
somebody who goes into Congress and then they say they spend 20 years in there, and this is where I'm coming in. They spend, say, 20 years working that job in Congress, and they keep getting reelected by their people because apparently they're doing something right. And this is going along with better securing of the votes and the election to make sure that there's no cheating, and so on and so forth. You get somebody in Congress who works 20 years, they deserve a pension, and they deserve lifetime health care. Now, mind you, that health care should be good health care, but it shouldn't be like, I know Congress gets basically some special lifetime health care where they not only pay nothing out of pocket, but they get stupid preferential treatment. Now, I'm saying on the healthcare end of things, they should get really good healthcare with a low deductible as a reward for all these years of genuine service. It should not be literally a golden credit card where they just wave it at a hospital and say, give me a kidney, just
Agreed.
because I want one. And then I'm going to make a kidney sandwich out of it just because I can. No, but it should be good. It should be good health care, again, to reward somebody who has served honorably for at least 20 years in Congress. We should do it just like a regular employment, just like a regular job. If you only serve one term in Congress, do what you came there to do and leave Congress, then, maybe we'll kick you a few bucks after you turn 65, 68, 70.
Give them a prescription discount card.
Something. Give them something to say, hey, here's your little gold sticker. Thank you for serving in Congress, but you don't get taken care of for a lifetime. You get a little bonus, but not something huge. Then you get somebody who serves, say, 10 years in Congress, couple of election cycles. They get into Congress and then they decide before the campaign season even starts, they're just going to, I've done 10 years. I'm good. Give them a little something more at the end when they turn the appropriate age.
They get to 10 years and they're like, I'm tired of these ungrateful motherfuckers.
Yep. And then you give them something when they turn retirement age. And this, again, they should only be getting this at retirement age. It should not be something they get the second they leave office. It should be only be given to them at whatever the Social Security agreed upon retirement age is. They get basically treated like they're working on that system. So when they retire, when they get to fully retirement age, they can collect a little something as a thank you for serving their 10 years in Congress. It would not be the same as a full pension. It wouldn't even be quite a half pension, but it would be a little something to just, make their retirement a little easier. So maybe they can sit down, write a book or do something. And this is, again, like I said, this is assuming we are cutting off as many of the limbs as possible that will keep the nastiest, crappiest politicians from getting into office in the future. But then, like I said, you get somebody who serves 20 years, and they do a wonderful job. Everybody in their district or their state loves them. They, and they're begging them, keep serving. And they're like, no, you know what? I'm starting to get up there in age. I'm nearing retirement age as it is, or maybe I'm over retirement age, or maybe I'm just doing this because, I retired initially from my job. I wasn't really getting much as a pension there, but I decided that I just couldn't sit on my ass any longer when my neighbors were suffering or my neighbors needed representation. So I decided to stand up and, but I'm retiring, I've done my 20 years. Give them a full pension. Give them good health care, not ultra elite healthcare, but good health. Reward them for serving their country honorably in. It's not a combat job, but sometimes it, when you're somebody like MTG or, Cruz or Gates, when they start getting into the freaking screaming matches with their own freaking party, it may not be throwing bullets, but you're throwing around some pretty nasty insults and you are playing with fire. Matt Gaetz was targeted, a couple of years back with some allegations that were proven later to be absolutely false. That's the kind of games they're playing. They're playing games with their reputation. They could go to jail on false accusations and made up evidence, by FBI, CIA, whoever you want to blame. But, they do go through a lot of risk these days. The ones that actually stand up and are trying to be decent representatives of the people. There is a short list of ones that actually do their job and do it properly. Yeah. There are also some Democrats on that list. It should be like all this other crap online. It has them 5 stars below it, and people rate you, and then you get accommodated according to your rating. You know? Yeah. Like if you got 1 star, you ain't getting shit. You get 5 stars, you're getting a pretty good package. Not, like we said earlier, nothing super great, gold card. It's basically what you would expect to get as a pension if you retired as a upper mid-level executive at a corporation. It's something decent. It's some good income. It's not, millions. But it's well above the poverty line. This, like I said, this is the 20-year package. A little better than you need to sustain yourself. Yes. Not like border. Yeah. Yeah. And also high enough that your typical one-off bribes, like what was the name of I can't remember the name of the congressman, the one from New Jersey that got caught with all those freaking gold bars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Mendez.
Yeah, Mendez.
Mendez. Yeah.
You should be getting a pension that, you should feel at least comfortable enough with what you have, that a bribe doesn't really, to a logical person. I'm making enough money off of my pension with my health care and all this, and I've got, I might have, like, if I served on the intelligence committee and I had access to really deep state secrets, I might have a marshal detail or, DOD detail because I was that deep into things on the budget side or whatever,
just so you don't have to go, just so you don't have to go work at McDonald's like Kamala did.
Yeah. Or
at 70 years old,
that or low-hanging fruit bribes from pissant third world nations don't look like an attractive value. Exactly. And we're still keeping in mind that a lot of ex-Congress people, at least the ones that are focused on trying to earn an extra buck, they'll also do the lecture circuit. They will go on CNN, Fox, MSNBC, whatever the hell. They'll get paid a fee for getting on there. They will pad their they'll get to pad their income that way. But the other thing that's very important, and this is another thing, every single member of Congress should be receiving a personal audit from the IRS every single tax season. That's another thing. That wasn't mentioned anywhere else, but I believe that every member of Congress should be receiving a full audit from the IRS. Now, mind you, of course, being a congressperson, they shouldn't be maybe addressing this themselves. They might have their accountant handle it, but their finances need to be anally inspected right up to the deepest depths of the colon every single year. Not only to make sure that they're paying their fair share of taxes, but if they got any side gigs, they have any pre-existing investments that are frozen ever since they entered Congress or were turned over to a trust and they can't touch until they get out of Congress, whatever. Making sure nothing has changed. They're following the rules. They're paying their fair share of taxes, and they're not trying to weasel out of anything by making, shadow companies, shell companies, or whatever. They need to get an anal probe from the IRS every single year. And
that'd be a shitty job. That would be a shitty job.
Well, it would.
Anal probe.
But you have to realize when we're talking about members of Congress, how many tickets they have for like stuff like drunk driving without a license. Some of them have been, there's several members of Congress that can't get a credit card because their credit is so bad. Every single one of them should be removed from office as being unfit to serve because
numerous members of Congress have been prosecuted for some sort of battery charge.
Yeah. Anything like that should be an automatic disqualification. Should be immediately removed from office. That is another thing. Getting in Congress has its own little shield of protection to it. I'm a congressman. What are you going to do to me? No. It should be, if you're going to jail, if you've had half the crimes that some of these people have committed that we know of, that may not have been pled down or were pled down, whatever. Any of that stuff should disqualify them from being a sitting member of Congress, and they should be removed from Congress immediately. That would also decrease the number of shitbirds we have in Congress. Oh, hey, congratulations. You were caught driving without a license. You wrecked a limousine that was U.S. government property that was assigned to you for your detail that you were driving that you shouldn't have been driving.
Like that ship that DIE hire crashed, that Navy ship.
Yeah.
The $100 million ship.
Yeah, it was a salvage and research vessel.
$100 million.
Yeah, it was
and a DEI hire.
She'd only been on the job 8 years. 8 years, and she was promoted to ship captain.
Yeah.
8 years. And she's a former school teacher.
Yeah, he was on his knees. She, it, whatever.
However it happened, she was not qualified for that command at all.
Obviously,
only 8 years of experience. Mind you, it wasn't a warship, so that's something. At least it wasn't
Right.
a warship. That would have been horrible. That would have been horrible.
God, dude.
My
God.
The idea that all those munitions would have gone up in a protected area, that would have been horrible. And then, the fuel leakage. New Zealand doesn't have any nuclear powered anything. So, it would have been a fuel leakage situation. It would have been all those munitions spilling into the coral reef.
Probably more people as well.
Yeah.
Probably more people as well.
Yeah, it would have been a huge disaster. Fortunately, it was basically just a research vessel. But still, 8 years of experience at sea, period. And her former job was as a school teacher. She was in no way qualified to be in command of the ship. Now, it would have been a different
not like
story.
She grew up on it.
Yeah, it would have been a different story if, she'd done civilian service most of her career in a Navy attached sort of job, Naval Reserve, but she was a staff officer, didn't have a lot of sailing experience, but she knew everything else that had to go along with that job. She just didn't have the sailing experience. Yes, I could see in a small Navy like New Zealand's promoting her after 8 years if she had that kind of pedigree, but she didn't. She absolutely didn't. They seized upon her as being barely competent enough to pass certain exams, and they're like, "This is our golden child. This is our shining example of why we need to instill equity into the armed services. We're going to take her, and we're just going to very, very quickly advance her through the ranks to the rank of ship captain." And it just backfired horribly on them because she, maybe she was qualified at 8 years to be ranked the equivalent of lieutenant junior grade or full lieutenant in the U.S. Navy. Maybe she did have that level of competency in, say, legal or as an instructor or something like that because of her pedigree as a teacher for so long. Not as an active duty but active duty sailing captain. She screwed the pooch. She was absolutely not qualified for that. And mind you, nobody's really going to face any repercussions for this. And that absolutely
sucks. That's the bad part. On top of the first bad part. That makes a shit sandwich out of the whole thing.
Oh yeah, that just adds the crust to the bread. That nobody that promoted her or
I want you to cut my crust off. I don't like crust.
Too bad. Too
yeah,
bad.
Right.
No.
Eat around it. Eat around it.
If she goes to prison as the scapegoat on this, they're not going to give her shit.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say they're not going to give her shit how she wants her bread.
Yeah.
She's low person on the totem pole, so if somebody is going to be held accountable, it's going to be her, not anybody else up high.
Oh yeah, but she's still going to get. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
He's right, but it's 100% right. The person that really deserves the punishment ain't going to get it.
Right.
Yeah, and
she should be second. She should be second on the punishment list, and her boss should be first.
Yeah,
but it won't be that way.
And she's still going to get a pass. She's still going to get a pass because lesbian and female. I really there is a double standard with that. So at best, I see this as a career ender. She will be found guilty of some level of negligence, and they will just terminate her commission. That'll be it. That will just escort her off the premises.
She can go back to teaching.
Well, she can go back to that or just go back to being retired. She spent like 20 years as a teacher, retired. And mind you, she's not even New Zealander. She's from England. But because of the Commonwealth agreements, she was able to go to New Zealand. I think she had like one parent that had New Zealand citizenship already, but she was able to go to New Zealand and join their armed forces. And since she had college education and all that, they basically made her an officer right away, automatic commission. Because they have similar rules and automatic commissions for certain, degrees and such like that the United States Navy does. Just but it's supposed to just be not an honorary commission, but a non-frontline, I forget what the exact term is, but it's basically a commission where, yes, congratulations, you are an officer, but we know you're not a combat officer, so you may get promoted a little bit, but you're not going to get really promoted unless you go and do our version of education on things. You know, you got to go to officer school, you got to go to sailing, you got to do all this shit. You can choose not to, as long as you stay within a certain specialty that doesn't require it. And you might get a promotion once or twice, but that's it. You will not get promoted any higher because you are not actually one of us.
Yeah. So it kind of like on MASH last night, where Hawkeye and BJ, some dude was playing poker with him. He couldn't pay his bill, so he wanted to promote him. He was in he ran that machine that could run promotions for people. So they got a promotion for radar. He went from captain to lieutenant or second lieutenant. Yeah. So it was like bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
Not something earned, something given.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the worst punishment she's going to get is removal from the service. That's it.
Yeah.
And you know, Garrett, even then, they're going to let her take all of her little trophies and plaques and shit out of her office and hang them in her home. They're not going to do what they should do. I mean, what they really should do. Decency being what it is, make her wear a tracksuit or something underneath her uniform, but make her walk out onto the parade grounds while they rip and just have them rip her uniform off of her, shatter all of her little diplomas and shit and burn them in a little pile, and then say, you are now a civilian. You were never one of us. May your name be stricken from the records and stricken as nothing but a curse in the names of every sailor. Get out. That's what they should. I could go along
with that.
That's what they should. That's what they should. See, I believe in a lot of, when the person deserves it, reformative punishment. Give them a chance to turn their lives around and make something decent out of themselves, because I'm still one of those. Call me crazy. A lot of people have. But I still believe that there is good in just about every. I mean, you know, I've been one to say there are some that have become lost causes, absolute lost causes. The ones that predate on children, especially, they're all lost cause. But you get somebody who makes a complete. You know, she was put into this position. She was probably very eager for it, but at the same time, you know, she got in way over her head. She is to blame for what happened, but what kind of punishment should she get at this stage in her life? I think a public humiliation and absolute shaming within the service would be more than sufficient. You know, and make sure, of course, she doesn't get a pension or anything like that out of the government either. You know, she just walks away, and she walks away with her head hung in absolute shame. And, you know, literally everybody can point and laugh at her on the street. There goes the failure that sank the ship. Ha ha. You suck. Maybe she, you know, makes a learning experience out of it, writes a book saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong to accept these promotions and do all this, you know, and basically as a come to Jesus moment, or just a realization moment that maybe that they fucked up. I believe that, you know, a lot of people, and, you know, we just this election cycle alone, how many Democrats have realized when they shut off the TV, they shut off the echo chamber, and they look at Trump, they realize, hey, wait a second. He's not such a bad guy after all. All these policies make a lot of sense. We've had so many Democrats flip to the Republican side so they can vote for Trump. Hell, even during the Democratic nomination process, Trump got something like 2,179 votes to be nominated as the Democratic presidential candidate. Mind you, these were just from average Joes, you know, and with the Democratic nomination process, they don't mean jack shit. But he actually got 2,000 votes to become the Democratic nominee for president. Harris got a big fat 0. So Trump is actually more qualified to call himself the Democratic nominee than she is, which is hilarious. But that tells you right there, even you know, hardcore Democrats can have a slap in the face moment, a moment where they wake up and realize they have been lied to. They have been brainwashed, and they get the cognizant power to recognize that they have been brainwashed, and they say, hey, you know what? No, this is wrong. What we need to do is a lot of the stuff Trump is saying. I may not agree with everything he says, but I disagree with a lot of the things that Harris says. You know what? I'm going to vote for Trump. We've had so much of that.
How can you disagree with so much of the stuff she says when she doesn't give a fucking straight answer?
Exactly.
You can never tell
Yeah,
exactly what the hell she's saying.
About the straightest answer she's ever given is when she was asked if she would do anything different from Biden. She said, "No, I can't think of anything." That right there.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
and
that's all you need to do right there.
Yeah, Biden
that was all over.
Yeah.
Everybody I watched was on that yesterday. True
Biden
story, though. Yeah, I mean.
Well, yeah.
And then the shit with the Glock. Like, she just says Glock. Like, what kind of Glock, you know? And like a couple years back, she actually either tried to get a ban through or did get a ban through in California that you couldn't buy or sell Glocks.
Well, I can tell you the ban didn't go through. California has some really onerous restrictions on guns. One of the most famous, mind you, this is from a former resident, is the so-called list of safe firearms. That thing is an absolute scourge. Basically, just long and short of it, the list is basically a list of California-approved firearms. Now, every minor design change that a company makes to a pistol is a separate entry into this list. So just taking Beretta, you have the Beretta 92, the standard stainless, standard blued model that looks just like the military one, military Spark Rise, but we'll just go with that. The standard blued model. Okay. That passes the approved list. It's got, a loaded chamber indicator, a positive safety, this, that, the next thing, all the little points they put on there. Okay, well, now we've got the stainless steel version, the Beretta 92 Inox. The only difference is that it has a different finish. Those are two separate entries on that list. They have to be two separate entries on that list because of the way they constructed it. So, and the list is restricted to a certain number, and that number shrinks every single time. That's something I believe the law is for every item that is they want to add an item to the list. So say Beretta comes, they have all these new guns that are coming up, and say the Beretta Nano, for example. They want to put the Beretta Nano on the list. Okay, well, you have to remove two of the guns that are on the list under your name. Congratulations, the list is shrank. So, and that is the way that the list was constructed, so that eventually there would only be a very, very small selection of firearms on that list, to the point where each manufacturer would really only have one approved model on that list. So Ruger would, and this is, mind you, with the initial size of the list and how a lot of the manufacturers do things, it would take probably 80 years to get to that point. But still, the goal it was the same as what was it? The Saturday? Well, it wasn't called the Saturday Night. It was the Army Navy Pistol Act that was passed in Tennessee towards the end of the Civil War. That was ruled unconstitutional. But the basics of the law is that one of the I believe it was the military governor of Tennessee during Reconstruction passed an act called the Army Navy Pistol Act that stated that only Colt, or was it Remington? No. Well, but only Army Navy pistols, 1858, 1861 pistols were allowed to be purchased and sold within his military governed district. That was struck down as unconstitutional because it's saying, it grants basically a monopoly to a very small number of pistols and disenfranchises people who can't afford the cheaper stuff. Mind you, the military governor's goal was to deprive partly the White Robe Society, can't name them, the White Robe Society and various other elements that were still causing problems in the Reconstruction era of the South. He wanted to take away their ability to get cheap guns, cheap disposable, percussion cap or flintlock guns, especially small ones that were like Philadelphia Derringers. That was his goal. Mind you, he did it with the best of intentions. He wanted them to only buy the very large Army Navy pistols. But it was ruled unconstitutional. But
sorry, y'all. I got Mom's here at talking to me about something.
Oh,
mute my microphone.
But the California Safe Gun Registry is basically the same thing. And what it eventually was designed to do was cut down the number of available legal firearms to as few as possible. by forcing you to remove 2 items from their list every time you want to put a new one on. And it still has to pass muster, and you have to pay this outrageous fee every year just to keep your handgun on that roster. If you fail to pay the fee or it's late or whatever, your stuff's dropped. You have to reapply. You can reapply the original guns. You have to go through the testing process. It is such a pain. That list alone is the biggest obstacle to owning firearms in California, because one of the things is that because of how High Point makes their frames out of relatively inexpensive materials, they're not allowed to be on that list because their frame is, their frame's cheap. It's not made out of high grade steel. That's one of the things they look for to be able to put on that safe handgun list. So you can't get a High Point out there, not legally. Mind you, you could, there are ways around it. Like, for example, if you lived in another state, like say Nevada, for example, and you owned a High Point before moving to California, and once you moved to California, you registered that with the police department, your local police department, you got, your handgun registration and all that shit, you would be allowed to keep it, because it would more or less be grandfathered in, because they realize they can't just take guns from people moving into the state. So you're allowed to keep it, but you would not be allowed to sell it or transfer it to anybody. In other words, that gun would stay with you until you died, and then upon your point of death, it would have to be turned into the police for destruction. That was partially challenged, and the way they ended up working it is now you can legally pass it on to your heirs at point of death only. So, the father dies, he owns a High Point, say it's still working, because those things are like freaking tanks. Still works, he passes it on to his son or daughter, they can legally own it, but they have to re-register it in their name, blah, 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 blah. They have to go through all that rigmarole. And, California's got those nasty red flag laws, and they're very, very liberal. Literally anybody can call you in for a red flag review. It could be a coworker. Say, you're just talking politely at the water cooler, and a coworker overhears you say a naughty word or one of those wrong think words. Well, they can go to the police and say, I'm afraid this person's going to shoot up the office. Well, the police can immediately, if they want to be dicks, they can go right to a judge, get a red flag review, and show up at your home the next morning at 2:00 in the a.m. and demand to take all your guns. And if you resist, they're going to fucking shoot your ass. Otherwise, you hand over all your guns.
Or put you in jail and take them anyway.
Yeah. Most people don't resist at 2:00 in the morning. They're too sleepy for that. But, you get the point. Is they will just show up and take your shit. You are guilty of possibly doing something in the future without any proof, which is what the red flag laws really are. Some people probably had the best of intentions with wanting to pass them to prevent mass shootings at the same time, or murders. At the same time, the very concept of these red flag laws deprives people of the concept of innocent until proven guilty. You are considered guilty automatically. Your rights are restricted. Your rights are taken away until you can prove your innocence. That's not the way things should work.
Like Minority Report, the movie. Remember that? Have you ever watched that?
I haven't watched. I've watched clips of it. But it's the same. It's the same concept, except in Minority Report, at least they had some kind of semi-legitimate evidence that a murder was going to take place in the future or some other crime. But in this case,
can you guys hear that?
Yeah, I can hear the whining, spinning noise thing.
Is it bad?
It's not too bad.
It's not horrible. I don't know. How's the sound out there? Is it coming through the thing too much?
You're good.
So
cool, man.
Just to reiterate here, we're only going till 8:00 this morning because I have to go to an appointment. So, let's just touch on Florida real quick.
Oh yes.
Please pray for the
Speaking
people
of
down
things
there.
that spin.
Last I heard, it was almost 3 million people without power.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's fucking crazy.
Yep.
And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. We're just going to say that it's moving quickly, thankfully.
Yep.
So
And
conditions
it weakened significantly before it hit shore. That's another thing I was very happy to see. When it was coming on shore, it was down to a 120 mile an hour low end Cat 3. That made me very happy.
I learned something new this morning. Did
Do
you
tell.
know that they actually lower the lake levels all over
Yeah.
Florida when they
Oh,
get
yeah.
a hurricane like
I
that?
saw that.
I can explain
Good
why,
morning,
too.
Andrea.
Good morning, Andrea.
Well, that
I
way
can ex-
Morning, Andrea.
the rainwater has somewhere to go.
Well, that
Yeah,
is called
yeah.
the brown ocean effect. The brown ocean effect just very simply means that when you encounter heavily saturated ground, lakes, things like that, and a low pressure system passes over it, it can actually draw strength and moisture from those standing bodies of water if they're large enough. That's why Lake Okeechobee is such a hazard, being so close to Miami. Any hurricane that goes straight across either direction, if it hits Lake Okeechobee and Okeechobee's got really nice warm water, it can actually gain strength while it's over the lake if the eye is smaller than 30 by 35 miles, which most eyes are. So,
And then,
that lake could be fuel. But that's one of the reasons why they lower the lakes, is to reduce the possibility of a brown ocean effect.
Okay. Good to
That's not
know.
how they didn't announce. They didn't tell that part, but cool.
Well, that's big science.
Of
I hate to
course
say it.
not,
I hate
Chris.
but I hate to say it. But a lot of people don't study meteorology, or get those facts stuffed into them in high school. Like we used to have really good high schools that taught some really good and interesting stuff. Nowadays we don't. But whatever the whys of that isn't the issue. But I could tell you, even my mom understood the basics of the brown ocean effect when I explained it to her, because it was part of something that she'd learned in science class in high school. Mind you, she went on to be a science and history teacher. So
now I was astonished when I found out that apparently they're saying one place in Florida got almost 17 inches of rain.
Wow.
Last night. And I'm
Not
like,
surprised.
man.
Not
A lot of water.
surprised.
Conditions are going to improve on this throughout the state as the day goes on.
Yep.
Which is a good thing.
Yep.
Right now it's starting to head off the coast.
It's already off the coast. It's already off the coast.
So,
but yeah, we lucked out with this. I mean, this could have been horrendously worse. Like we were saying, at one point, this thing was the fourth most powerful hurricane in Atlantic history. And by the time it got to shore, it was still an above average hurricane, but it was, we went from looking at an apocalypse in hurricane form to, okay, it's just an above average storm. We're Florida. We can handle this. It could have been so much worse. That, and it did not make a direct hit on Tampa like everybody was afraid it would. It made a very close hit, and I'm sure MacDill Air Force Base has got a lot of cleaning up to do. But, again, it did not make a direct hit with its strongest winds in downtown Tampa. It edged Tampa. So some of the suburbs of Tampa got some of the hurricane force winds, but they weren't the full 120 mile an hour winds that were right by the eye. There has been some significant damage, but all things considered, this could have been so much worse. The one thing that saved us, I know there's at least a few people around here. I'm not saying I'm going to disagree with them, but they're going to say the hand of God was behind that cold frontal boundary that pushed down through Florida. I'm not saying I disagree, because that's a bit of a miracle right there, that cold boundary hit and the hurricane hit and rubbed against it so well that it accelerated the hurricane to shoot it out across Florida instead of sticking around, moving at 8 miles an hour so slowly over the peninsula, like a rug burn over your arm. Instead of going really slow with the twine that just ripped it off, which, again, minimal exposure,
Yeah.
Dave said the tornadoes turned out to be a bigger problem. It sounds like.
I heard the tornadoes were a bigger issue.
34 tornadoes and counting. They're still investigating some.
Yeah. And even then, The tornado output by this hurricane was, again, just a little bit above average for a hurricane of its strength. This could have been so insanely worse. We lucked out with how weak this hurricane was. This is one of those silver lining moments. Yes, it's shitty. Yes, there are a lot of homes that were destroyed. Yes, there's a lot of property damage. Yes, there's a lot of wind damage. Yes, there was a lot of storm surge damage, but we didn't get an 18-foot storm surge like it was at when it was at its maximum strength. We did not get 185-mile-an-hour winds at landfall. We did not get, the same level of rainfall that we got with Helene. 17 inches is a hell of a lot of a difference from 30 plus, which some areas in the Carolinas ended up getting with Helene and the storm system for 3 days that came through right beforehand. Florida can recover from this. Ron DeSantis can probably tell FEMA to fuck off or say, hey, you know what? If you want to help, just send a whole bunch of shit to MacDill Air Force Base or Pensacola or whatever. I've got a friend in another server. He's going to be in state later today. He works for a major tree company that does a lot of work like this. He's one of their best tree toppers that they have in the state that he was in. He's going to be down there by, I think he said it was be about by noon today. And they're going to be carving up trees right away. We got 50,000 linemen out there. This disaster, this horrible disaster, we were better prepared for. We had resources pre-placed. We had more reinforcements coming. Florida is going to get its shit handled. So
and a lot of it was the civilians were just better notified, and they took a lot of things into their own hands.
Yeah,
I mean, the government can't take a whole lot of credit for a lot of shit that went on there.
Yeah.
I don't think.
The biggest credit they can take is the fact that the long range,
the system that notified them.
Yeah.
They got warning.
NOAA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and then DeSantis took it seriously. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
DeSantis didn't fuck around. I have to give him credit for this.
And the people, I mean, I was kind of surprised when that one lady said about writing your Social Security number on your arm or something,
and your name,
and if you stay, you will be dead. Like, I think a lot of people kind of took that. I've never heard the social. Did you ever hear Social Security on your arm?
I've never. I've only
actually for identification purposes.
I've only actually heard.
Well, yeah, but I've never heard that before.
I've heard that used one time, and that was I think it was Katrina was the last time somebody said that, but it wasn't as big of a message. I think it was just the local police chief that said it versus somebody a little higher place. But these people took this absolutely seriously from the get-go. But then again, this is Florida. They deal with tropical systems all the freaking time. I am just very glad that Ron didn't go, oh, you know what? It'll be nothing.
Yeah.
We don't need all these resources. No, he took
Ron's pretty smart.
Everybody.
Yeah, he's pretty intelligent.
Yeah, he has a lot of. I don't think he's presidential material.
No.
I mean,
I wouldn't want him to. If I was a Floridian, I wouldn't want Ron DeSantis to go to president. I'd want him to stay where he's doing a good job.
Yeah, he makes a great governor. He makes a great governor.
Hey, he does well. He does well.
Mind you, when it comes to the list of people I would want in national office, he's somewhere in the 20s. I mean, he's up there, but I would still prefer him to stay governor. I mean, I don't trust him nearly as much as I trust Trump, obviously. I am very much. Trump is my number one until we run out of time.
Well, he's pretty young. He's pretty young. I mean, DeSantis, he could use another term or two as mayor or governor. Maybe, maybe he smartens up even more, gets some more experience, learns how to put on the big boy pants.
He's in his second term as governor now, so he can't run for governor again.
Oh, is there only 2-term limit down there? Okay,
I believe so.
I don't
know. I don't
pretend to know as much as you guys, especially Cal, because Cal got so much goddamn information in his head. I don't see how his head don't blow up.
There is no lifetime limit on the number of times the person may be elected governor of Florida.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're one of the states
Oh,
that does not have a term limit. I know Oklahoma
pretty cool.
does. And
Yeah.
thank you very much for the compliment.
No
People have
problem.
been telling me that left and right for the last couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, I'm not that smart. I just read a lot when I was a kid.
Andrea said, well, they just got hit once already, and he did what needed done to keep his people safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, Ron gets props for that. Maybe if Ron calms down a bit and doesn't wear those stupid boots again.
Yeah, how about that shit? They were all over that, boy.
Oh God, yes,
Jesus.
they ate him alive.
They
Ron
did not let that go.
Ron needs to just be comfortable with being short. I mean, you got to embrace
Yeah.
it. Once he does
Yeah,
that,
what
once he matures a little more as a professional politician, a good politician, maybe in about 12 years, maybe a little longer, he'll rise up into my considerations. Right now he has been a very good governor for Florida, and I got to give him props for what he has done.
It was like another MASH episode where Radar got the shoe lifts. You guys remember that one?
No, because I hate MASH.
He got lifts for in his shoes, so it made him a couple inches taller. Yeah,
yeah.
It was.
I remember.
It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
I've watched MASH, but I hate it. I absolutely despise that show.
I watch it just about. I watch it just about every night. If I'm in at my desk, but I've seen every episode of MASH probably 10, 20 times.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I've been watching that shit since I was a kid, dude. I mean, and now it's back on Me TV
too. Yeah,
it's on Me TV right now from 6 o'clock. From 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I believe it is.
I give it props for being very well written. I give it props for lampooning the military in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it was at a time when the military needed to be lampooned. It's just a lot of the shit that they push in that show pisses me off so goddamn much. I can't stand it. Especially Alan Alda. I got issues with Alan Alda as both an actor and a human being.
I've heard that before. As an actor, I don't mind him. As a human being, I don't know shit about Alan Alda. He's pretty up there.
He's as far left as you can imagine.
Okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, he is very, very far left. Not quite as extreme as some, but like.
So he's another Tom. He's like another Tom Hanks. I always loved that guy for his acting, but he's a flaming lib.
Yeah. Alan Alda is one of those, and especially once Alan Alda got creative control over the series, you see a lot more of that shit. Mind you, I could easily watch the first season of MASH when it was all about the jokes and all about the lewd comedy and shit like that. The first couple of episodes I thought were great. I could still watch those. If you said I wouldn't intentionally hunt for them, but you put them on the TV as long as it's good old Henry behind the desk, I might enjoy the episode. The chance of that decreases to get into the series.
Henry Blake. I don't know. I heard he was Steve McQueen. I heard he was really a bitch to work with on that. Because he wanted to be the first funny guy, like the main guy.
Yeah.
But Steve McQueen really wasn't that funny. I liked Harry Potter better. What's his face there? The old dude.
Harry Morgan.
There you go.
Yeah.
He was pretty funny.
Yeah, Harry Morgan.
Thinking Hogan's Heroes.
Harry
How's
Hogan.
that? Andrea
What was
said I
that?
watched MASH as a kid. Andrea said I watched MASH as a kid too. My dad used to watch that, and the other one, the German one, I forgot.
That's Hogan's Heroes. See, now
Hogan's Heroes.
I would watch Hogan's Heroes over if you gave me a choice of watching Hogan's Heroes or MASH, I'd rather watch Hogan's Heroes. Why? Because Hogan's Heroes is so much funnier. Because especially when you realize that all the guys that were playing Germans were actually Jews, and they wanted the Germans to look like absolute fucking buffoons. That was absolutely.
They did good.
And the guy that played and Colonel Klink, Werner Klemperer, he absolutely insisted in his contract that Klink must never, ever, ever be allowed to win anything. Survive, yes, but not win, not ever win. That was his, and if the writers ever brought him something where Clank would come out on top, he'd say, no, I refuse to do the script. I would rather walk off the show than make this guy look in any way competent. He is to look like the absolute perfect picture of a total buffoon. And
like
even the guy playing
Sylvester
Hockey
Stallone.
Center. Yeah, the guy
Like
playing
Sylvester
Hockey Center.
Stallone. I just watched something this morning about Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone. Now, I knew about
Tango and Cash.
Sylvester, but well, no, it was just those two actors are both on the exact same page. Like Sylvester Stallone, he just turned down like $5 million for a Disney movie deal, and he said no. You know, he's not bending to this bullshit. You know, you can stick your $5 million where the sun don't shine. See ya.
Yeah. We do have there like I keep saying, you know, there's some people in Hollywood that have morals. A lot of them left Hollywood, like Kevin Sorbo. Once he realized just how nasty Hollywood was, he walked away. They didn't kick him out of Hollywood. He left voluntarily. He got one good look behind the curtain after Dean Cain was another one, but he more or less got thrown out on his ear. Kevin Sorbo freely admits that once, you know, Hercules was done, he basically it was like, okay, you finished Hercules, congratulations, you're kind of popular. Here's the equivalent of a bunch of drugs. Here's a whole bunch of nasty shit that we want you to do if you want to advance your career. He took one look at that shit and said, no, bye. No, fuck that. And he went and basically he basically became somewhat of a hermit after that. You know, he didn't really have a social media presence. He didn't speak up. He didn't speak out. Didn't say anything because he didn't want to be involved in that shit anyway whatsoever. It's only recently, with all the shit that's been happening between Trump and so forth, that he's decided to make a social media presence. And he has come out as being very, very much right wing. But at the same time, you know, he's very open about the fact that, you know, I saw a lot of this shit happen and I didn't do anything about it. You know, he stated that he kind of feels guilty about that, but given the machinations of Hollywood, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot he could do except get out while he could, so he didn't become one of them.
Right.
And for the kind of money he was being offered, he was a fucking sex symbol. You know, even my mom had a crush on him, and she was like 30 years old. But my mom had a thing for young, handsome men anyway.
That's like fucking Sam Elliott now.
Oh,
you know, he's been a heartthrob to like every woman in the world. Most guys seriously look up to him for being an American badass, and now he's fucking voting for Kamala. And Mark Zuckerberg. I didn't know that one. And Mark Zuckerberg is now backing Trump. I saw an interview where he said, I saw that interview with him, and he said, you know, when I saw Trump get shot in the face and raise his fist, he said that was the most badass thing I've ever seen. So now he is endorsing Trump.
It's more like, it's more like Zuckerberg saw the writing on the wall. He knew at that instant that Trump was most likely going to win. And if he didn't switch teams, he was going to get his little lizard ass split so far open, he'd have to grow 2 new tails to cover it. He's just doing this out of self-protection. Zuckerberg, he is maybe
quite possible.
You know, no, he's doing this purely out of self-protection. I do not believe that he really has any definable morals at all. He doesn't care about anything but money. Data.
That's it.
Those are the two things that are only enter his head. Now that he's realized that, hey, you know, maybe working with the deep state is going to get me in a lot of trouble once Trump gets in an office. Not if, but when. It just seems like a sure thing now. I better switch teams and get on the winning side so maybe he doesn't, you know. Anyway, we're getting,
and he'll flip right back, you know.
Oh yeah,
if things don't go right.
But we're getting towards 8 o'clock. Chris, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, Dave, on that thing about Meathead, he has a Meathead in real life. Dave said he likes watching All in the Family, but can't stand Meathead in real life. Yeah, well, he proves his point. Cora said Sam could park his boots at her house anytime.
Good morning, Cora. Morning, everybody.
Morning, Cora.
All righty, well, I got to get going, y'all. You have a great day. Thanks for hanging out.
Again, it's always fun to hang out.
Keep praying for the people in the southeast.
Amen.
And we'll keep an eye on it. see what's going on.
All right.
And yeah,
Y'all take
All
care.
right. Have a great morning, everybody. We'll see you on Discord, and yeah, you can message me if you need to talk. All right, we're out. Y'all have a great day.
Later.
Peace.